Okay, one of the things that cropped up when I was doing this little documentary series uh, was basically the fact that in May they were going over the atmosphere to check it for pollution to do with anything to do with climate change. And it was a European thing, and it wasn't done over England. Um, but basically the nuclear power plants, people in Germany were saying, "Oh, is my Geiger broken? I can't tell anything." And at the same time, I was getting quite high values in England because of reported English releases from Sizewell and all the others that were going on at that time, and and the winds were generally pulling it out towards Ireland, out out into the Atlantic, and the winds were coming from the north and what have you. So Norway wasn't getting quite the hammering that England got. So they started off in Norway and then they moved down through Germany, and that's kind of the cleaner air that was going on then. And they moved down and they went over Hungary as well, which actually I think had a problem, but we'll have a look in a sec. And so anyway, we had all these nuclear incidents, releases from various places. I just thought I'd show you as well as Finland, and in the last month, so Finland, and we had one in Russia. Now, the one in Russia tied up with another one that we got down in where was it? It's down in Greece, and that tied up with Chonin, which was the one in France. You can see on the just under the right in the middle of France there. So, and on top of that, we had Hungary popping off in the last month. So, and that was after the European atmospheric pollution climate change project. And if we go back a month, I just want to show you what the nuclear power plants were doing. And you can see lots of blues there as well, all over Austria, around Czechoslovakia, Germany, and there are lots of blues also around Switzerland, France area, to the north of Italy, where they had some releases in Italy, probably to do with the earthquakes, probably shut down reactors that had to be emptied. We've had a number of hits, so that's that. And I'd also point out that the hit in Ionia that you can see there is basically about 1.6 microsieverts, and there is another hit in Switzerland at 1.6 microsieverts as well, and the monitors around that area, a lot of them seem switched off, and there's cut-offs. Russia is at the moment switched off, and I'm talking about today on the 24th of June. So there's something going on today in that part of the world. I just thought I'd mention that while I was there. So anyway, we've got this month's emissions, lots of blues, lots of purple spots, and when we kick back 1 month, and this will bring us fully into the, you can see it's a lot quieter, a lot less blues, and that's describing the whole month, which will go back into the start of was it be April, and the last week in April as well is included in this. So you can see there's a lot less things going on, and with these releases we went through them, but the releases in the south may have happened when the air monitoring was going up in the north. They were flying a plane or something, and they were taking measurements as they went along. So these could have been timed to avoid the issues. And if you look in the north of Germany there, very nice and clean. You've got a lot of yellows, and that was that month. So basically, and Russia, very clean. Finland, couple of blues, but nothing much. Did manage a blue in England, but that was which is rare, and that was because England was doing releases, and some of this is just sort of standard things, but you can see there's a lot of blues in not in France, or there's not a lot going on anywhere else. And I just wanted to document that, and I'll just take you up there so you can see it's the 24th, going back a month. That's the previous month. 24th of the 5th, so that's May. We can see really that that Europe is seriously compromised there. Although Germany, it's nice and clean, but it normally does up in the north. It's much cleaner. So anyway, that's Europe, and we've got it on this month. If we stick it on the higher value, we can see that it was much busier and went much further than the previous month. We got the hits in England, and that was mainly Chonin, I seem to remember, and various other waftings from Europe heading up to the UK. And the last one in the UK, which basically you could see the travel was across from France, across the southern peninsula there in the left-hand corner of the UK, and then it went up, and then it hit Ireland, and you could see little movements in the Irish monitors heading from south to north. They were decreasing, so there was a northerly movement of contamination that tied in with that one. So, but I've sort of got to the end of what I can do with this practically, and the videos are up there, and the documentary may well be on the way at some later stage. But for you guys that have been sticking with me, I'm going to carry on doing videos, but in a different format, and in giving different information. Hi guys, I'm just bringing you to Sunday morning. I'm bringing you to the statistics on YouTube, and in the last 7 days I've had 210 views. One day I got 90 views, well, nearly 100 actually. So it was all the other days are a lot less, and as you can see there, it's dropping down to about 27. And basically what I'm looking at there, really, I mean, the whole year, I'll do that, just clicking the whole year. An interesting journey, but the whole point of this was to really look at what was going on Europe, and it was just a monitor. I'm just down the road from the Heathrow monitor that always reads 0.08 microsieverts. So only if the one's done in the house, around the house, it can be kind of compared with that. Now that's in a HEPA filtered environment of some sort, I think. So my indoor readings are still higher than, and I've got a HEPA filter, so they're still higher than the outdoor reading, presumably, of the Heathrow monitor. So that was the main thing there, was just to see, well, that says 0.08, and is that so? And I think, I sort of covered all the contamination episodes where we were getting up to above 0.3 microsieverts. We covered the peaks when we were having those sort of periods, up to 0.88 microsieverts was the highest I got. I got a couple of those. 0.63 microsieverts, that was kind of a common theme. Getting there was my normal. I sort of thought that's quite high, but and then of course 0.42 microsieverts, sort of these peaks, so at the end of the day I was sort of looking at how I didn't really count the peaks on the averages when I was putting my averages down. on any news or on the YouTube. So we sort of covered that. So your depth, you know, we looked at that, and there was some spikes that appeared, you know, that where the monitors were sort of over inundated with radiation and had to do something. And we saw all the switch offs on your depth. We saw your depth being turned off after a very nice man would turn it on, you know. And that was depending on what was going on in the way of releases. If there was a release after the nice your depth guy turned it on, then basically, you know, would get somebody else come and sort of mess around with the system. They go and hack the system. So and that was just kept going on. So you know, other people on any news contacted the your depth saying, "Excuse me, you know, it's not working," and it's been sabotaged basically. Somebody's switching it off, and they're not informing the person who switches it on. So there's some connivance going on there. So, I mean, when I'm sort of looking at URDEP, I've put articles down that show that if there was another Chernobyl, you know, URDEP wouldn't spot it. You might get peaks on various monitors where particularly dense clouds go by, but you wouldn't see it. You know, you really wouldn't be able to work out where it comes from, and that's proven by the fiasco with the IAEA sort of saying we don't know where all this contamination is coming from in August, and it was coming from Hungary, and they were told by CREAD and they were told by other people, and no, but we don't know where it's coming from. Look at your depth. Oh, there's nothing showing there, but there was. If they looked at the information like I did, and looked at the isotopes and the strengths of the isotopes, they could work out that coming from Hungary and going out, the isotopes were reducing. And of course, then they changed all the isotopes so that you couldn't work that out quite so easily. You know, a little flaw in the IAEA version of URDEP. But there is another version of URDEP as well, and I've had, I had the well, somebody who I presume was, shall we say, working for a nuclear company, and we had some discussion on the YouTube. I don't think he realised what the videos were about. He was just commenting on some inaccuracies I'd made on URDEP, and it was fair comment. But I think after he watched and one of his colleagues another 10 videos, he ceased commenting. And that was mainly because I'm hitting a very contentious and secretive subject, and I'm very surprised. You know, I'm sitting here doing my little thing, and but you know, at the end of the day, this must be a very interesting little project, although it's very amateur, for the people out there who work in the nuclear industry, and especially URDEP, and you know, they're sort of probably wondering what is really floating around the skies of Europe. You know, because they make these emissions and they presume that they dissolve and everything's wonderful, but they don't. They stick in thick clouds and maybe relatively small, a few miles across. But they come in and they settle in places like radon does, you know, in the quiet corners and unwindy places, and in you know, in forests and places like this. It's the same sort of pattern as radon, but these are particulates, you know. So, and talking about particulates, you know, there's a whole issue around those, and we're breathing them in quite a lot this last year. And I looked at the London pollution warnings that tied in with the high radiation levels. You know, so all these this sort of evidence is found on there, and I really want to do a little documentary based on all the video stuff I've got on YouTube and the stuff that I've held back, and maybe come up with a short documentary of some sort that would just sort of go through the points that I'm just talking about here. So, well, that's your dep, and you know, you're probably saying, well, you know, why are you stopping? And I think, you know, I've got a lot of other things that I want to do. I've done a lot of research on the issues around Fukushima, and I just want to get the information out there because it isn't out there. It's been censored. Alright, so I'm taking you to Any News, and I'm going to leave a link down, but I've basically been doing a lot of blogging on Any News over the last year, and there's a lot of information on Any News that I want to get out there. There's a lot of censorship going on YouTube, all over the web. Copyright claims going down. They're taking out informative articles that people are putting up. Anything that is vaguely mainstream or is being funded in any way by any sort of media organisation, they're shutting it down, and especially with nuclear. So the nuclear stuff's dropping off like a good one. And it's kind of hard to combat that. So what we have to do is we just have to get the information out there on a blog format. So my blog now, my YouTube blog now, will become, I'm going to put all these videos into a file and tidy up the actual channel, and then I'm going to start doing some videos describing various aspects of what's been going on over the last year, to do with censorship, to do with misinformation, to do with outright lies, and there's a lot of stuff basically that I've come upon, I've chanced upon, and I'm going to sort of want to talk about that now. I think now's a good time. The people of Japan are starting to rally to the anti-nuke cause, and it's not being an anti-nuke just because some fear or whatever. It's being an anti-nuke because people that are running these organisations, they're so brainwashed into the fact that what they're doing is good, and the economy relies on it, and our whole life is dependent on the nuclear. If we get cancer, we need nuclear. It just goes on, and they really do play up on this. But at the end of the day, they've proved themselves to be incredibly dangerous with this technology. Whether it was in Russia, which everybody was saying, oh well, they're very sort of second-rate country for nuclear, and then it's Japan, and I've heard the Americans try to say that about Japan, and the Americans actually made the reactors. So it kind of seems like one nuclear crowd in one country will play off on the other, but will also support one another when it suits, and it's all to do with how the media views it. Oh yeah, it's their fault, it wouldn't happen here. There's a terrible spin on the media, and on the stories, and on the reports as well. The reports that are actually, the peer-reviewed reports that get put out, which are inaccurate and misleading, and I'm going to do some videos on these. The World Health Organization report on the children of Fukushima. I'm gobsmacked. That was one thing that came up recently, and they basically turned around and they said, what was it? Yeah, well, we're going to look at the dose that the children had. We're going to work it out based on the figures that we don't have, but we're going to guess. So we're going to guess these figures because the figures weren't given out. The very important first days of the isotopes that break down very quickly and are very active and could do a lot of damage. These isotopes were not measured. The information for the first 5 days apparently is destroyed. Then there's information the Americans had all along that nobody was really paying any attention to, including the media. So a year later, it's all sort of coming to light. I'm just basically, glad that the Japanese are stepping up to the mark, and but the information is very much, censored in places like England, and you get the BBC view, and a lot of people are taken in by it because they really do trust the BBC, as I did. But as the Fukushima thing developed, I discovered that the BBC was not a good source of information for anything to do with nuclear matters. But that's part of the reason I need to get these videos out, and informative videos. So we've done the Your Deb thing. It was an experiment. It's been really interesting, actually. I'm glad I did it, because at least for myself, I know, hey, we've got a problem here, and I think, at the end of the day, it's time that I did this next series of videos, because there's so much stuff out there.